ultimately what I've discovered through kind of all of my, kind of working on myself and all this self experimentation, like if you've been continually drinking and you haven't given yourself a six to 12 month booze vacation is what I refer to, it's really tricky to continue to perform at your best and to maintain your health because even small amounts. So even like 3 or 4 drinks minimum, a week, which, honestly, you could have an IPA that could have 2 servings of alcohol in it. You could have a cocktail or a glass of wine that's a generous pour, and that's another two servings. And so even 3 or 4 servings of alcohol per week on a regular basis is going to
Mm-hmm.
rewire your neural circuitry. So you're dealing with a baseline of higher stress, higher anxiety, lower mood, lack of impulse control and discipline. And that could take months to recover from. And then
Welcome to The Ownership Game with Gary Montalbo. What would it take to get into the driver's seat of your life and leave your mark? The Ownership Game starts now.
In today's episode, I sit down with Clifford Stephan. Clifford is an entrepreneur, a triathlete, and more relevant to the theme of this conversation, he's the founder of Booze Vacation, a resource platform that, as the name suggests, encourages men to take a vacation from drinking. Now, before you roll your eyes, you should hear him out. He's not trying to get you to quit drinking. He's merely suggesting an experiment. Take a break from drinking for a time of your choosing and see what you discover about yourself. This is the conversation that you were not at all asking for, but may be surprised at just how much you needed to hear it. So Clifford, I think it would be great to start by you really taking us back before you did this experiment. What was happening in your life, like that you even thought about doing this, right? Like walk me through your life.
sure. Yeah. So I founded Booze Vacation probably at the age of about 48. And so up until that point, high school, college, real social, a lot of sports, and yeah, hanging with the buddies and kind of beers. Kind of was always sitting shotgun to a lot of our events and adventures, and yeah, just kind of drinking socially. Also, definitely a health nut. Like I said, I was very active with sports, water polo, soccer, tennis, surfed, and then I got a degree in nutritional science. So I was
Mm,
pretty on point with my diet and fitness regimes and things like that. And kind of in later into my 30s, I started to notice some slippage. Definitely kind of poor sleep and kind of more brain fog and maybe a little bit more weight gain that was a little trickier to get rid of. And I wound up kind of, again, not looking to necessarily get smarter with my drinking, but I'd kind of pretty much diligently turned over every last stone but that. So I had tried a lot of different, kind of diet, lifestyle, meditation, supplements, workout regimes, diets, and, continued to just get poor sleep and kind of high stress and not look and feel my best. And I was pretty aware of what my best was, and it was pretty clear that I wasn't there, and it seemed like it was slipping sooner than it should. And so I was inspired to take a 1 year break that I refer to as a booze vacation, just to kind of make a joke out of it and make my buddies laugh. And yeah, it was super impactful. Kind of felt like I discovered the key to youth and the fountain of kind of just happiness, really. And so it was a really profound experience, and I was pretty excited about it. So I was kind of talking to my buddies about it, and realized pretty quickly that there just wasn't really an appetite for the conversation. Guys really enjoy their booze, and it's kind of how we relate, how we do events, it's how we reward ourselves, and there's a really strong association with our identity. And so, knowing what I knew from a health and wellness perspective, I kind of saw where that was going to head. Nobody, kind of this echo chamber where no one's talking about it, no one's trying it, no one's, getting the benefits, and knowing how kind of guys relate, and how, there's kind of a little bit reverse peer pressure working there, that I was just concerned not only for my own health, but for my buddies and guys alike. So like I said, I've
Mm.
traveled and been in corporate America, and it's kind of the international love language, I think, for a lot of dudes that kind of just like want to work hard and play hard. And so I thought there was a I discovered there's a pretty big need for getting smarter with your alcohol use and really restoring your health, kind of as you get into your 40s and as pre-disease symptoms can start turning into more chronic disease states.
Yeah.
And then once you're kind of in the medical system, it's kind of all bets are off, and you're playing a new game that's not a lot of fun. So kind of trying to intervene and kind of really have that health and wellness conversation, ideally earlier than later, by kind of
Hmm.
being the asshole talking about it when guys typically don't.
So, um, well, first, how did you end up with alcohol was the thing that I have to try now to remove? Like, what
by
got you
trying
there?
by trying everything else besides alcohol, and then finally
Okay.
begrudgingly trying
Okay. So you
alcohol.
okay.
and
Yeah.
and part of the problem, I think, was made it confusing is me and my buddies kind of had already addressed our alcohol use. We'd cut back or we'd take off dry
Mhm.
January, but so we were on the right track. But the shorter breaks, so booze vacation is a three. It sounds like something else, like you're on a booze vacation, drinking on a ship or something like that. But a booze vacation is a 3 to 12 month break, and so it's really kind of a purposeful break where you kind of have to know why what you're doing and why.
Yeah.
And it's really not about not drinking, but really leveraging that time, money, and energy to start restoring and repairing a lot of systems that
Yeah.
get dysregulated with regular alcohol use. And so, um, yeah, so it's a break that actually works because it needs to be kind of long enough, and it is dose dependent and how long you've been doing it. But most guys can use a minimum of 4 to 6 months just to kind of get back to square and get back to feeling like themselves. And then the longer you go, the more at bats you get, the better you are socially, and the less awkward it is, and the more likely you're likely to continue rocking your
Yeah.
vacation.
So you went through everything on the list, kind of this avoiding this thing, right? So first, how much drinking were you doing? Cuz I think it's very easy for people to think that you might have been excessively or you might have had an alcohol problem or and that's not what we're talking about at all. So just how much drinking were you doing for people?
Sure, and it obviously depends. And like I said, I think my story is pretty common. You're drinking in high school, maybe you have some parties in college. If you got money to spend, and you're at a party school, that happens. And then you're at home, you get a house, you're in corporate America, so it's at work, it's at home, it's at all your events. And so
Mhm.
yeah, mostly weekends. And like I said, I did start as I got older. Like, I wasn't drinking during the week, but what I found is that even going big on the weekends occasionally was enough to kind of dysregulate my sleep
Mhm.
and put me on these negative cycles. And ultimately, what I've discovered through kind of all of my, kind of working on myself and all this self experimentation, like if you've been continually drinking and you haven't given yourself a 6 to 12 month booze vacation, is what I refer to, it's really tricky to continue to perform at your best and to maintain your health, because even small amounts, so even like 3 or 4 drinks minimum, a week, which honestly, you could have an IPA that could have 2 servings of alcohol in it. You could have a cocktail or a glass of wine that's a generous pour, and that's another two servings. And so even 3 or 4 servings of alcohol per week on a regular basis is going to
Mhm.
rewire your neural circuitry. So you're dealing with a baseline of higher stress, higher anxiety, lower mood, lack of impulse control and discipline. And that could take months to recover from. And then, so it's just eroding a lot of different systems. So even at small amounts, as you age and already have wear and tear. So,
Yeah.
we're kind of targeting kind of the 30s to 50s, plus or minus. And it's ultimately really kind of a simple health protocol to, kind of give yourself some time and space and runway to start working on all these systems. Because you get into your 40s, you're regularly drinking, you've never taken a purposeful break. I don't care what type of health interventions you're doing, your supplements and your workouts and all that. you're dysregulating so many core systems simultaneously. You're stacking on existing wear and tear. You have more responsibility, so you're ultimately going to be kind of pissing up wind and getting
Mm-hmm.
results that will disappoint. So it's really about, most guys will find themselves by their 40s and with regular alcohol use kind of maybe at about 60% of capacity, and maybe a few interventions might give you to 70, but you're still nowhere near 100%.
Yeah.
So
So
it's kind of
so you
tricky.
weren't so you weren't drinking that much, maybe just weekends,
Yeah, towards the end.
and
Yeah,
and
towards the
this
end, it was
was yeah,
probably 3 or 4 drinks on Friday and Saturday night
yeah.
type of thing.
Okay. No, I think it's important to identify that because a lot of people do 2, 3 drinks a week and you're saying that even 2 or 3 drinks a week, that 2 drinks a week is enough.
I'd say, yeah, I'd say 3 or 4. Honestly, if somebody's drinking twice 2 drinks a week, they're not our target.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my buddies that I know would have 2 drinks on a weekday or something like that.
Got it.
And
Got it.
not including a weekend or a tailgating party where you might be having 10. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of it's so embedded it's so ingrained in our society, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
in how we roll. So it's not the guy that occasionally has 2 drinks a week. That's not it. But
Okay.
again, most of my peers are, as they're living their lives and attending events and at work events and sales calls and things like that. It's just it adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, how quickly, when you started this experiment, how quickly was it before you realized, oh, I'm onto something here? Like, when did you start to feel the impact and start to connect the dots?
Yeah. Honestly, I think there was a minor shift and epiphany just when I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a 1 year break and I'm gonna give this a real shot. And I think honestly, just like kind of subconsciously and like within my body, I think there was kind of a little bit of relief because at the end of the day, you're doing something that's stressing out your autonomic nervous system. It's affecting your organs, your respiratory rate, your blood pressure. It's shrinking your brain. It's causing indigestion and leaky gut and chronic inflammation. There's so many things that are getting negatively affected, even in small ways. So I think there was just kind of an initial, like, I can just kind of go, oh, okay, like let's like give my body a little time and space here to kind of just like chill out and yeah, not chase the social calendar
Mm-hmm.
and be going like from one event to the next to the next. And so yeah, there was a little bit of a just a quick glimmer. It wasn't like I'd found nirvana or anything like that, but I think there was kind of an initial like shift in mindset. And because honestly, you go a little bit big on the weekend, and by Wednesday, you're kind of trying to get after it on the work week, and you're like, okay, maybe I went a little too big, but hey, I'm really looking forward to this event or this concert or something this coming weekend. And you're like, okay, well, I'll probably be kind of overdoing it on the weekend again. And so it's really easy
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get stuck in these negative feedback loops that are sort of unconscious just because they're so ingrained in our society. But um but definitely, yeah, just kind of you're starting to kind of just kind of come back to life and start, things are definitely slower, and you're feeling more, you're sleeping better, you're starting to have, your disciplines coming back. So there's subtle shifts. It kind of depends on where you're at in the journey, but I think obviously
Okay.
the first couple weeks is definitely, the tricky part, where there's the kind of the most mental and physical dependence on, because let's be real, alcohol has pretty addictive capabilities. But once you kind of get past that, yeah, and so that's kind of why Booze Vacation is set up to really kind of impact kind of key systems that alcohol dysregulates, like your sleep, diet, fitness, and mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and really starting being intentional and mindful on that, and leveraging that extra time and money to really start making those improvements. And you could really start getting really quick results when you're no longer harming all these systems, and you start making some modest, kind of diet and
Yeah.
lifestyle changes.
Was it difficult for you to make that decision, like to cut it off completely? Because when I look at, if I put myself in that position and I look at honestly, I can wrap my head around cutting back pretty easily, and in fact, I'm at, similar to you, I'm at a point in my life where I may have a drink a week, if that, probably more like 1 or 2 a month. But the idea of not having a drink at all, and it when I think about that, I kind of, oh, I don't know that I want to do that. Like,
Doesn't feel good. Yeah.
it doesn't, right? So
Yeah.
was it like that for you? I mean, for as well, or was it once you made up your mind, you were like all in?
Oh no, there's definitely you kind of wax and wane. I think what's really important and kind of one of the core pieces we're doing at Booze Vacation is just helping guys. I think there's guys like to play dumb with their alcohol use and they're pretty clueless on
Mm-hmm.
how kind of, the dots connect and how deep that rabbit hole goes when it comes to just, kind of eroding diet and lifestyle and testosterone levels and performance and sleep and your mood and so I just think there's just kind of a lack of awareness and it's kind of by design because hey guys think that alcohol's fun, it is, and but ultimately as your physiology changes with tolerance, it's not consistent return on your investment there, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it can be a little tricky to figure out for
It,
sure.
and here's the thing, like now
And
that I'm thinking
it's
about
very
it,
much in your identity too. So it's like it's like, hey, I'm doing it on
yeah,
the
yeah.
weekend. I'm kind of fun. It's kind of wild. It's a social lubricant. All that is true. But the thing about a booze vacation is it's not a lifetime declaration. It's a temporary break, and you are going to do kind of a longer one. But what you're ultimately backing into is improved health and performance, and you figuring out how to do it. And guess what? Some people will actually really enjoy it, looking, feeling, screwing better, having more money in their pocket. But you wouldn't know and without doing it. And the problem with
Mm-hmm.
cutting back or these shorter breaks is it doesn't give your body and mind time to heal, and it doesn't. It's in the wild, it can be tricky. You'd be like, oh, I'm cutting back or something. Your buddies will be like, come on, have a drink, Gary. Like it's such and such. So it's hard to kind of close that off. So Booze Vacation kind of gives you that ground cover and that
Yeah.
vernacular where you're just kind of like, hey, no, I'm on a vacation right now. I'm not doing it. And since we're not targeting alcoholics, since people aren't necessarily looking for sobriety, they may discover it, but that's not any, it's out of our pay grade. But yeah, it's not like there's not other things. It's again, it's not sobriety. We're not serving alcoholics. There could be CBD, there could be nicotine, there could be other vehicles, but alcohol is kind of the master dysregulator, and that's kind of why we're picking on them because it's affecting your
Yeah.
sleep.
So yeah, and the thing about alcohol is it's complicated, right? Because as you said, it can become part of your identity, but we use alcohol to socialize, to relax, right? It's been a long day, how many times you said like, "Oh, I need a drink. That was stressful," right? We use it to give us courage, right? Like liquid courage. When you know you're about to go do something scary, there's that whole like, okay, let me have a shot to kind of, you're gonna go ask the guy or the girl, or you're gonna go do karaoke and you're scared. Let me do a shot. There's all these ways that we use alcohol as a crutch, and and when you think about it, like alcohol is there through all the big moments in our life. You get a promotion, let's go have a drink, let's celebrate. It's a birthday party, we're all drinking. We're socializing. There's alcohol present. There's just a way that alcohol is always at the background, or really at the foreground of our lives and these key moments in our lives. And so psychologically, I think that it's difficult to kind of even picture yourself not drinking anymore, right? Or not doing that anymore. But you're not asking people to stop drinking altogether. You're really asking them to do an experiment, right? And see what, choose your adventure, choose whether it's 3, 6, or 12 months, choose your adventure and discover what you discover, if you will, right? Like what is it that you are, yeah, I guess for me, what is it that you're looking for them to do afterwards? Like what, after you go through this, what is it that you're hoping will happen?
Yeah, and to take a step back, at the end of the day, Booze Vacation is a huge gift, and it's such a wonderful kind of gift that I just want to share. I'm not here to like, tell a man how to live their life or what to do, but the reality is, and you're kind of hitting on it with all these rituals, and yeah, we got a promotion, I'm on vacation, I'm with my buddies. It's so embedded in our culture that unfortunately, and it's so pervasive everywhere, that most men are not going to get a choice. No, there's typically not guys like me
Mm.
saying, "Hey, you should take a break. It's really cool." It's not actually a dumb idea. And so what happens is they continue to drink it. Maybe they kind of modify and try to drink a little bit less or cut back on a month here or there, but they never get out of that spin cycle, and it continues to accelerate age and disease. It erodes their diet and lifestyle. It creates really diminishes their quality of life. You start getting erectile dysfunction. You start getting high blood pressure. You're taking these pills. You don't feel good. You take more pills. It's lowering your mood. It's, increasing risk for more chronic disease states as you go. It's really eroding your quality of life. It's really making you less you. And, you know, the reality is, like I said, you can at the end of your vacation, you could easily wind up having your beer and drink it too. So it's not like you can't ever have a beer again, but 99% of our members will drink way less and for different reasons. It just won't be so habitual. And yeah, you might figure out other ways where you can kind of skin that cat if you still want to get out of your head and do a little CBD or a little something. Um it's not like trading one vice for the next, but there is flexibility as things get, as there's recreational marijuana and things like that. But it's really about giving your you know discovering for giving men a choice, because they don't currently have a choice other than these ineffectual ways that don't work, because our culture hasn't really gotten their brains around that. And you go to any movie, you go to any of your favorite shows, they're drinking it in practically every scene. It's the most beautiful people in the world, hawking it. And yeah, it's how we kind of roll. And unfortunately, what guys don't realize is it's a big bag of predictive problems that they want nothing to do when it comes to, health and quality of life issues. And, especially men of success, it's like if you associate alcohol with, fun, friends and events and a reward system, and you're doing well, and you're taking more vacations and you have more events, like, guess what? You're going to accelerate age and disease even quicker. And so, like, how stupid is that to like kind of make it to the mountaintop and then slide off the back and in a whimper, so that's just not what we're cool with. And we want to give guys, ultimately the opportunity to restore their health. It's way easier to restore their health than it is to kind of attempt to manage chronic disease. And it's super expensive and it doesn't work very well and it's not a lot of fun. And so we want
Mhm.
guys having fun. We want guys spending money on toys and maybe a couple supplements and taking care of their diet and their families and living their best lives and giving their gifts. And you can't do that when you're dealing with health consequences, and now that ekes into your health, to your jobs and your relationships and and your quality of life.
Yeah. And the thing that struck me about a lot of the symptoms that or effects that you're sharing, it they just seem like symptoms of aging, right? Or symptoms of having a stressful job or symptoms of having, a stressful family life. It so but you're saying that alcohol could be the culprit, that it's not necessarily, you're getting older, it's you're drinking and you're, and so the impact, I think what I'm trying to say is that the impact could be getting masked by all these other circumstances that we just attribute to, we just shrug our shoulders and go, "Oh, I'm older now, so yeah, high blood pressure comes with that, or stomach issues come with that." But you're saying it doesn't have to be that way.
100%, 100% on point. And so, what guys, to step back here with some simple health 101, Andrew Huberman said it best. You have to have diet, you have to have fitness, you have to have good quality sleep, you have to have kind of a healthy mind and way to deal with stress. And alcohol is going to directly negatively affect all of those. And even if we just focused on sleep, a few drinks, 40% less, less quality sleep, 3 servings of alcohol cuts your growth hormone in half. It trashes testosterone levels, which affects drive, performance, libido. constant kind of sugar intake, chronic inflammation in your liver, leaky gut. I mean, it's just there's just so many things, and that's just it just on and on. And it's like, so you're not going to look and feel and perform your best. So you know, guys attempting to have a kale salad and a gym membership, you're really just gonna you need to feed and care for those four kind of cornerstones of health, and alcohol screws that up 100 different ways. And so, and even if you, like I said, even if it only affected sleep, that would be enough, because you wouldn't be optimizing your hormones. You wouldn't be able to like refresh your memory, and you wouldn't have the emotional resilience that happens with good quality sleep. There's just so many restoration things that happen. You're just aging and wearing and accelerating damage to the body. And then it's like you try to have like optimal body composition, and you have poor, you're getting too much sugar, you don't have the right testosterone, you're too tired to work out, you have aches and pains and strains because your body's inflamed, your joints are there, and your diet's not on point. So it's impossible to live a kick-ass life and live it as long as you want. And so that's what we're all about. And but you're absolutely right. It's like in the system, when you're just kind of in this, caught in so many different negative feedback loops. You sleep poorly, you drink too much coffee, your discipline's eroded, so you just want a little, just kind of want a little state change. Grab the bagel, grab the burger, grab the shake, and then it's like you're not as productive at work, and it's a total predictive path. And even guys of success that are quote unquote crushing it and have big houses and big businesses, they're still, like I said, if look at their blood work, look at their mood, look at their their engagement with their family. It's just really hard to sustain that over time.
I think I'm curious about what the journey is for someone who is thinking about this. Let's say, so there's a listener and they went, "Huh, that's interesting." What what can they expect if they decide to embark in this journey?
Yeah, I mean, and the good and the bad of it is ultimately it's you're kind of taking on a new identity, and it might be, and it's temporary obviously, but you're kind of taking on a new identity and you're doing things different. And that sounds a little awkward and a little scary, but at the same time, like, comfort is killing us. And you know you really need to be intentional about your health and your habits. And those are super tricky to do when you're with regular alcohol use and just wear and tear and responsibilities. So obviously, I think for me, a big piece of it was just kind of questioning, hey, is alcohol really benefiting me? Let me look into this. Okay, it's I want to be active, I want to look and feel good. Okay, well, it's going to make me kind of fat, it's going to inflame my body, it's going to screw up my hormones, it's going to lower my dopamine and serotonin, so I'm going to have a lower mood and maybe be sad when I'm not drinking it. And it's going to so it's ultimately, what do you want and how long do you want to keep it? And if you want a lot, you have to have good performance. You have to have healthy habits that'll support that, so you're grateful when you get there and you can handle adversity. And so it's really start taking off the beer goggles, having some awareness, and then kind of sacking up and taking the break. Honestly, the hardest part about taking the break is the deciding to take the break, not the taking the break. Secondly, it's probably the first couple of weeks, and then it's just getting that at bat socially, and learning how to navigate that. We have all the tools and tricks you need for that, but we just say, nah, I'm on a booze vacation right now. When someone asks why you're not drinking alcohol, we'll have great non-alcoholic beers that we enjoy, or mocktails. So it's not like we're going to a party empty-handed, and we're looking and feeling
Mm,
good, which is a great way to attend parties. Parties are about the people, not about the alcohol. So it's just, you're just learning
mm,
new things. And then, yeah, it's not about moping around and waiting, watching the clock for 6 months, but it's like, hey, start going to bed on time, stop snacking, start eating more nutrient dense foods, get some fiber, let's get some protein, let's get to the gym, let's do some weight training. By the time you get into your 50s, you want to have as much lean body mass as possible. So it's really important, because that's basically your currency for longevity. If you have a slip and fall, or a scary diagnosis, the more lean body mass you have, the longer you're going to live. And if you show up to 50 kind of limping along and weak and skinny, and or overweight, and you're not going to be very resilient when the shit hits the fan, and it will. That's kind of what we signed up for. So it's really
mm-hmm.
about kind of preparing yourself for optimal, kick-ass long-term life. That's what we're all
Yeah.
about.
So I think, you said it, the hardest part would probably be making that decision. Um, what what advice do you have for people who are contemplating that, and how to get themselves over to the other side of a yes, I guess?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you could do, but obviously know thyself. And yeah, if you've been having 5 or 10 drinks for 10, 20 years, the longer you play in that space, the more likely it is to impact your health. I think a really good one is to just start being more aware. Like if you can get a sleep tracker, you'll see how like alcohol completely
Mm,
trashes your sleep on the nights you drink it. And maybe some, if you have any symptoms, if you're using prescriptions for bad blood work, if you have a CPAP machine, if you have a mouth appliance for snoring, like alcohol is, increasing your respiratory rate, is making you breathe inefficiently, it's stressing out your body. Poor sleep is going to age you. It's going to make you more likely to have Alzheimer's. But yeah, get a physical. Get know your blood pressure, and if you don't know any of that stuff and you're just kind of playing dumb, then it's kind of like, hey, like take a little responsibility and playing dumb with your alcohol use is one thing, but if you don't know the health metrics, you're going to get sucked
mm,
into the system. They're going to start throwing a bunch of pills at you and a lot of procedures, and none of it will address the root cause issues, which is poor diet and lifestyle. So, I think, you just kind of need to take a step back and assess where you're at and what you want, and again, how long you want to keep it. And I think a lot of people get, we get busy and we get kind of numbed out and we get in our habits. And oftentimes, in our society, like it's processed food, it's fast food, it's grabbing the drink, grabbing the caffeine, because yeah, you're trying to, operate as best you can with, substandard practices, kind of
yeah.
treating yourself like a junkyard dog, not a $1 million racehorse. And so that's where
But
we
but
kind of mix it up.
I think you just pointed to something really interesting. You just said we numb it out, and I do think that that is one of the strategies that we often use when facing difficult decisions or challenging decisions. And what I love about the advice you just gave is getting the it just the act of starting to pay attention. Get a physical, keep a, measure your sleep, keep a journal of what you're eating, keep a journal of how you feel after you eat those things. It it seems kind of like something anal about it, or laborious, or tedious about it. That's the word. But when you start to look at the data, and you start to look at the numbers, and you start to realize you can't avoid it anymore. And I think what the tricky thing about this conversation is that the impact is pretty great, but it's kind of all under the hood stuff. And because we kind of brush it off as like, oh, I'm getting older, oh, that's normal, oh, I have a, if I'm not sleeping well, the bed is the problem, right? I'm not sleeping well, oh, I need a different pillow, or, like we just keep assigning it to other stuff. So the biggest thing that I think you can do is to start to pay attention and start to look at these things, this data, in a different way. Because I think once you're facing it, the decision will probably become a lot easier.
Yeah,
you
and I
know?
think I think it's obviously overwhelming. We get inundated with jerks like me
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, do this and it'll solve all your problems." But the
Yeah.
reality
Yeah.
is like if you do this, it will solve most of your problems, because, by continually dysregulating core pillars of your health and wellness and performance, like, and trying to get anywhere with that. So, I think it's ultimately, and some of the stuff isn't under the hood. You can still kind of
Mm,
self-assess, your look and feel, and your stress, your weight, your how your body feels, your aches and pains, your sexual performance. Like there's a lot of things, like your mood, like there's a lot of this stuff. And guess what? So I hate to say it, but yeah, we can point the finger directly at alcohol. It's not driving the car, but it's sitting shotgun, and it does have a really compelling, significant impact on these things. So I really think it's about future, kind of future pacing. And and kind of as you're pointing to, it's like there's so much laborious, kind of things we do to kind of try to keep up this lifestyle, and it winds up being way more work, way more trouble than it's worth, and you get really, really bad health and lifestyle outcomes out of it. So this is actually way easier, and I think people that have tried health protocols before in the past, like I said, they're doing the right things. They're just doing it out of order. So this is the right order. This is like, hey, stop just, dysregulating your sleep and your diet and your fitness, and then start working on some small modest gains. And guess what? Like, this stuff is going to clear up and you're going to get really fast results. You're going to get some momentum. You're going to get stoked on it. And then you're really going to lean into it and really put your foot on the gas. And that's where we really get some really astounding fast results, which is exciting.
Hmm. Okay, so let's say I'm convinced. You got me. I'm gonna try this. What are my next steps? Like, what should I do?
Yeah, hop on boozevacation.com. You can take a vacation for free. I definitely want to do like a quick 15-minute conversation with you and just make sure you hit the ground running if you have any questions or objections or anything like that, because we work with a lot of guys as well as gals. And yeah, just kind of make sure you got what you need. And we have some, other materials and programs if interested, like a mastermind group for some guys that want to, a more robust community. We have online community and stuff like that. But yeah, check out, and you can do free assessments where you can kind of see, where you can plug in, confidentially how long you've been drinking, average number of drinks, and kind of self rate some of these things. But yeah, it's important to kind of just start, looking around. And what's nice about Booze Vacation, especially for males, is again, there's really no solution out there. We're not alcoholics, so AA is not for us. And kind of going out and trying to do this on your own is a lot of time and effort, and it would take years, and you still want to be able to connect the dots. So we're making this fun and aspirational and community based.
Yeah, I imagine that once you do it, it's like getting your friends to do it too. Would be part. I mean, ideally everybody's doing it together, so everybody.
It's funny, like I'm still trying to get my buddies to do it, right? Like
Uh-huh.
and it's ultimately, it's kind of like career advice. It's like, hey, Gary, like, yeah, the corporation is paying you, but like, you're not in that corporation business. You're in the Gary business. Ultimately, you need to do what's good for you and your family. And, if you're, but, if you can influence some buddies along the way, you certainly will. And that's fantastic. But, ultimately you have to take care of yourself. It's kind of like put the, put the air mask on your mouth first before you try to do the kids, because if you're incapacitated, that's it's game over, and so it's really about being you. And then yeah, your buddies are going to notice, oh, Gary's looking great, he's having just as much fun as we are, he looks like he's, that non-alcoholic beer he let me taste was pretty good, like maybe I should check it out. But it's really, your health and your journey, your life, it's about you. And so I get it. Like, how am I going to relate to my buddies? How am I going to, go out on a Friday night? Like, those are relevant questions, and I get it. But what better questions might be, what if I start getting erectile dysfunction? How embarrassing would that be? What if I start like having to take all these pills, and it's like really like sapping my energy, and it really, I'm having weight gain and all this stuff. Like, that's the bigger stuff. And then it's like, once your health starts eroding, it's like, it's a downward spiral, so it's no fun. So we want to keep guys out of that and get them restored and active and figure it out. And some will like it. Probably about 25-30% of our members continue to rock their vacations longer. But ultimately you can do what you want, but it's just such a valuable experience, and you gain so much insight, and you get a longer runway because you're restoring your health. And so even if you go back at it, you'll have a longer shelf life, and you'll get some epiphanies, and you'll know, hey, I could take another vacation when I want. And so whenever you want to look and feel your best is a great time to do it, including around summer when we typically drink a lot.
Mm. How do you choose the right length for you?
So for me, it was pretty apparent that, like I said, I drank for 30 years, and pretty damn social, and so I wasn't looking for the shorter. I wanted to go long, so I took 1 year. But I think 3 months minimum, and that's a great start. But the longer you take just the more time you have, more time and runway you have to kind of stack as many wins as possible and learn as much as possible on how to have fun and relax about it. And then the longer you go, the less you're going to drink long term, the more wins you're going to stack and you're going to want to keep. And so it's just a really simple vehicle to play, to be smart with your alcohol use long term. But I would say if you're just having maybe 3 or 4 drinks a week and you've only been drinking less than 10 years, 3 months is probably fine. But if you're the typical dude that's like in their 30s or 40s and been drinking since high school or college and, binging and going big, and maybe you don't binge as much now, but it's still, you're still drinking regularly, definitely 6 months to a year would be optimal. And, it sounds a little overwhelming, but it's not hard at all. Once you kind of get your dance steps coordinated, it's surprisingly easy, and it's just such an effective way to impact your health and performance that there's really no better tool out there than just kind of taking care of yourself and doing the right things in the right sequence. You can really get some awesome results.
Yeah. Well, Clifford, thank you so much for coming to the show. I think you're giving us a lot to think about and consider. I know for myself, as I said, don't really drink that much, but what's really interesting for me is even with me not drinking that much and the resistance that there is to cut it off completely, I think even just for that reason, it's a worthwhile experiment, right? Because what's that about, right? The idea that you are fully dependent on things, on a substance to live or whatever. So I think it's very thought provoking what you're doing, and it's worthy of consideration. So if you're listening and you especially notice some resistance in this conversation, I would pay attention, because the more resistance that you're experiencing, probably the more you need to consider participating in this experiment. So if that's you, go check out boozevacation.com, and there's a couple of resources on the website. You can get on a call with Clifford. You can check out some of his offerings and see if this is really the thing for you. But I can't imagine it's not.
Yeah, Gary, I love that story, and I have a similar one. I was telling some colleagues, I'm like, hey, I started this Booze Vacation thing, and this gal said the same thing. She's like, oh wow, that sounds really fun. And then I told her what it was, and she was like, she had this like, internal like, ooh, I don't like that. And then she was like, she had like enough awareness to be like, wait, why don't I like that? And so it's just kind of funny how you can kind of just reflect, but you're absolutely right. And I think it's super common. Like, honestly, like I said, 99% of the dudes that would consider it, would have that exact same reaction, because that's just kind of the operating system that alcohol creates. When you're regularly drinking it, oh, it's fun and it's part of our identity. And so not doing it is not fun, and it's not being myself. And so, we really kind of had to flip the script and kind of future pace and be like, hey, do you want to be healthy and active and perform well? And so it's tricky, but yeah, it's hardwired in the system, and it's set to self-destruct. And not in your case, you're not really drinking that much at all. Like, that's, you're not even really a target, honestly. But like, the guys that are drinking 5 to 15 plus or minus here or there, and some of those have multiple servings in, it's if you like booze, you're gonna want to tap the brakes, or they're gonna take it away from you one way or the other, and it's not gonna be on your terms.
Yeah. All right, Clifford. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
I think Clifford's invitation is interesting and thought-provoking. As I shared in the interview, I don't drink often. Maybe socially about 2 or 3 times a month, if at that. But if I'm being honest, even with that low consumption, I still can notice a resistance there. I understand drinking a lot isn't good for you, and that's probably one of the reasons why I don't do it often. But the idea of taking a break altogether, it's hard to wrap my head around. I know I can do it if I set out to, but do I want to? Summer's here. I love ending my day with a dip in the pool. And yes, sometimes that involves a drink. I love going to brunch or the beach on the weekends, and yes, sometimes that involves a drink. Okay, it usually involves a drink. I love hosting pool parties with my family and my friends, and those definitely involve a drink or two, sometimes three. And yes, there is a pattern there. Alcohol is pretty ingrained into our everyday lives. It's how we socialize, it's how we celebrate, it's how we party and have fun. It's also how we relax and maybe numb some of the pain and stress away when we're going through a really hard day. And similar to sugar, it's one of those things that in the moment bring us a lot of pleasure, so we're willing to look the other way when it comes to the harm that we know it does to our bodies. We do a cost analysis of the situation and ignore the fine print. But like every no interest loan or credit card out there, the bill is coming. And when it finally arrives, the interest payments, they're gonna be spicy. Look, ultimately, I don't care if you choose to drink or not. I'm certainly not saying I'm never gonna have a drink again. What I'm calling attention to is the unconscious behavior. The unwillingness to let go of what you think you know and discover what's on the other side of the experiment. Our dependency on alcohol to socialize, to connect, to fit in, to relax, and to unwind. I think what the experiment offers you is a chance to consciously reflect on the process, and in that, make an authentic choice for yourself and your life. If you've enjoyed this episode, please help me spread this love by sharing it with someone that you think would really enjoy this conversation. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Ownership Game with your host, Gary Montalvo. Make sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform, as well as subscribe so that you never miss an episode.